Today is January 9th, and the title of the devotional for today is What Will You Do? The scripture reading is taken from Numbers 14, 13 through 23. Murmuring is an outward sign of unbelief and will keep you living in defeat. Just as murmuring led the Israelites further into rebellion against God, it will lead you into rebellion and disobedience. When Satan tempts you to murmur about your circumstances, recognize that it is one of his strategies to defeat you, and instead of murmuring, begin to praise and thank God for his faithfulness toward you. Release your faith and trust in God to meet your need. Because of their unbelief, the Israelites rebelled and disobeyed God when they first came to the border of their promised land. They refused to hear the voice of God. They rejected his word. They refused to act in faith on what he had promised, and they refused to obey. God had told them to go and take possession of the land, but instead of going forward, they rebelled and turned back. Before them was the land that God had promised. He promised to bless and multiply them above the nations of the earth. It belonged to them. It was a rich, fertile land with green valleys. It was a land where God had promised to give them health and prosperity. Yet, because of their unbelief, they turned back. They said, "Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?" And they said to each other, "We should choose a leader and go back to Egypt." Not only did they refuse to hear the voice of God, they rejected him as their leader. God sent the pre-incarnate Son of God to go before them, to lead, instruct, and guide them. As long as they were obedient to him, God promised to give them victory over their enemies. They refused to follow God and obey him, however, and chose instead to follow their own self-will. They chose to go back to Egyptian bondage rather than obey God. They chose to satisfy the carnal desires of their flesh instead of pressing forward in faith and taking possession of the land. To take possession of their inheritance, it would be necessary for Israel to face the giants, to fight against their enemies and drive them out. Because of their unbelief, they feared their enemies more than they feared God. Instead of going into battle and taking dominion over their enemies, they chose to go back to their bondage and slavery in Egypt. There, on the verge of victory, Israel retreated. They forfeited their inheritance and they were defeated. Poised at the threshold of a new year, a new millennium, what will you do? Say this after me. I will hear God's voice. I will receive his word. I will act in faith upon what God has promised, and I will obey. And now the scripture reading is in Numbers 14, 13 through 23. I just need a drink of water here. And Moses said unto the Lord, Then the Egyptians shall hear it, for you brought up this people in your might from among them. Excuse me. And they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land, for they have heard that you are Lord among this people, that you, Lord, are seen face to face, and that your cloud stands over them, and that you go before them by daytime in a pillar of a cloud, and in a pillar of fire by night. Now if you will kill all this people as one man, then the nations which have heard the fame of you will speak, saying, Because the Lord was not able to bring this people into the land that he swore unto them, he has slain them in the wilderness. And now I beseech you, let the power of my Lord be great, according as you have spoken, saying, The Lord is long-suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children for the third and fourth generation. Pardon, I beseech you, the iniquity of this people, according to the greatness of your mercy, and as you have forgiven this people from Egypt even till now. And the Lord said, I have pardoned according to your word. But as truly as I live, all the earth will be filled with the glory of the Lord. Because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely they shall not see the land which I swore to their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoked me see it.